to Sugar Coated. I'm your host, Adrienne Garland, the CEO and founder of She Leads Media. For far too long, women have been conditioned to sugarcoat their words, their actions, and the way they show up in the world, and to conform to certain cultural norms and ideals. This is inherently designed to keep those who are outside of the norm from gaining power, prestige, wealth, and influence, preventing more women from being recognized and respected as the powerful leaders that we truly are. Join me each week as we dive into raw conversations with remarkable, uncompromising, and inspirational women that will encourage you to strip away your sugarcoating and move boldly in the direction of your magnificent dreams. Hi, everybody. This is Adrienne Garland, and welcome to Sugar Coated. I'm so excited to introduce my next guest to you. Her name is Kirsten Field, and she's the founder of Kids Crafts. Kirsten also donated many amazing, beautiful Ruth Bader Ginsburg jewelry boxes to the She Leads conference that just happened on November 10th. So everybody was so inspired to get their hands dirty and create these incredible jewelry boxes. So I would love to take this opportunity, Kirsten, for you to introduce yourself to the She Leads and the Sugar Coated audience.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. As you said, I'm Kirsten Field. I own a company called Kids Crafts, and I guess a little bit to back up about how we started. We've been in business since 2013, and the business really started out as me as a mom I had gone into like a elementary school and volunteered for their holiday workshop. And it really struck me that the kids were spending so much money on, the chintzy earrings that turn your, ears green and like the number one mom mugs. And I thought there has to be another company out there that sells, better products for the kids to be giving, for their holiday shop. And there wasn't. And so I came up with the idea of, well, what if I create a company that makes gifts, that I supply elementary schools with, these supplies to make gifts for mom and dad versus buy them.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how the business started. Was I had this idea of, creating this company where we would come up with 10 different products. The kids would then make them. We would supply schools with all of the supplies. And I went and got funded by a venture capital company in Grand Rapids called Start Garden. And so they funded me at the $5,000 level. And then part of that funding was come back 6 months later and tell us how you're doing. And then we'll decide if we want to fund you further. So I came back 6 months later and they decided to fund me at the $20,000 level. But at that point, Rick DeVos, who was one of their, major contributors and board members, said, well, we're going to fund you, but you really need to figure out a way to sell these crafts more than just at a holiday shop. You got to be making income, all the time, 24/7. Like this isn't going to work. And so I was like, okay. And, I acted like, yeah, I got that. No problem. I want to do this. And I think that's kind of been my business model the whole way through is like, I'll figure it out. I can get this, and so fast forward like a month later, and we were in a Bass Pro Shop store with our kiddos. And they had their Santa's Wonderland event going on. And one of the activities was to create a craft. And I was looking at the craft that the kids were given to create. And I was thinking, gosh, I feel like I could pitch to them, what I can supply the materials for them to make a gift for mom and dad or a craft for the holidays. And so I did just that. I pitched to Bass Pro Shop.
Wow.
And she came back the next week and said, okay, yeah, give me a proposal by Friday. And I was like, oh, okay. Again, I'll figure it out, right? I'll figure this out. And so that relationship ended up, I started with their Halloween craft, and it grew from 2013 to 2019 to the point that we were supplying over 2 million crafts to them a year for their in-store kids events. And so the school business kind of just dropped off. I couldn't get that business to just take off the ground. It just was tricky because PTOs always are changing with different contacts. And I ended up making the Bass Pro Shop, Cabela's, Macy's was another one that we would create themed craft kits for their in-store kids events. And then COVID hit. So my business was doing great right up until all events got canceled. Yeah. And so I really was at a point, Bass Pro Shop, so we're not doing any more events right now. Macy's decided they're not going to do any events. And so it was really like, oh, I have no business now. Literally, my business is gone.
Right.
So how do I pivot? So that's where this new kind of venture came out of, was the COVID pivoting and starting from scratch again. And the idea came about, basically, I knew I could create crafts, right? Like we have a dedicated factory in China that can mass produce crafts. And so that wasn't my problem. My problem was, how am I going to differentiate myself in the marketplace? I'm a mom. I go into Target and I see
everything.
I see dream catcher crafts, and what's going to differentiate what's going to make a mom choose my dream catcher craft over the other dream catcher craft. And so I really was struggling with, well, what would make it different? Like I'll include high quality materials. That's a given, but really what's going to prompt them to choose this one? And so I came up with the idea of, what if we create these crafts around women that had dreams and they were trailblazers, and give girls not only a craft, but a story about a mighty trailblazer. And so that's how this idea for the Lead Her collection came about, is that all of a sudden it clicked. Like, we are in such a unique time as women, right? And for our girls, that we want to teach them to use their voice, and we want to expose them to those stories of women that have really used their voice for change. And so that's how this Lead Her collection was born. And so basically, I'm sure that you saw with the boxes, is that we provide like the craft, but then we also give the story about these women and how they, as teenagers growing up, kind of use their voice for change. And then we also include Lead Her question cards. So in addition to them creating the craft, the Lead Her card can kind of serve as like a parental resource that, parents can use that to kind of have those conversations with their girls about, well, when's the time that you used your voice for change? Or when did you stick up for yourself when you felt like a situation wasn't right, or it didn't feel right? So there's never a better time than when kids are crafting and using their hands to be like talking to them. And so to kind of have that leader question card and, use those talking points, kind of helps out for parents. And so that's how our Lead Her collection got started. Then I was also kind of like, I have 2 girls. And so 1, teaching them about mighty women, but 2, they've watched me grow a business, right? Yeah. They've seen me in the entrepreneurial role of creating a company from nothing. And I've seen them, through me doing this, I've seen them want to do their own little businesses, right?
Oh my God,
So creating, painting rocks and selling them at the end of the driveway, or selling our mint for mojitos to the neighbors.
That's a good COVID business.
I mean, it is. Everybody needs the mint for the mojitos. But so I wanted to create another line of crafts, which is called our Innovate Her line. And this line is all about the crafty girl with the entrepreneurial spirit. So while it's keychain crafts or pop and paper clips, when they're done with their craft, we also include all of the packaging that they need to then sell it as a finished product at the end of the driveway or wherever. And then we include a Mighty Girl business plan to help them understand, how do you advertise your product? How do you, determine your price for your product? What are the costs that go into your product? And so we just take them at a very, easy level of what is a business plan and how does that work through the steps so that they can actually start their own little business with our craft. that idea came to me in February of 2021. And we launched in November of 2021. So
Oh my
it has been a whirlwind of trying to pivot the entire company. And I would say one of the hardest parts of this pivot has been I didn't have a social media presence. I didn't have a following prior to this new company. So for me, that's been a huge learning curve of
Yeah.
just how do I get followers? How do I get people involved in this? How do they, how do they come to know my product? And so that's been a huge learning curve for me, just because prior to this, I only worked with like the branding, marketing managers, and we would work one-on-one and develop the crafts and send them. And so this has been just a new learning curve of, how do we do Instagram posts and how do we get on social media and, and figure out Instagram ads and TikTok reels and all of that kind of stuff that I didn't do. I wasn't ever a poster, like even in my personal life, I don't post very much, and so it's been a step out of my comfort zone for figuring that portion of all of this out.
Gosh. I mean, first, Kirsten, I feel like I want to cry for what you're doing because it is truly innovative. And there's not a lot of people out there that are teaching girls how to start businesses. We sort of teach boys how to do that, right? But we don't teach girls, and especially not at that young age. And I just feel like you're such a role model. And I'm sorry, I feel very emotional right now because I just think it's so beautiful.
Oh.
But you are giving these girls such incredible possibility. Girls are socialized to push around the baby in the carriage and play house and all of that kind of stuff. And so we think that that's natural. But if you put, like you're saying, these crafts and these incredible, open-minded ideas into the hands and the heads of these girls, you're creating something extraordinary for the future. So it's so amazing. It's so amazing. And I actually wasn't aware of the cards. And it's so smart to marry together the doing with the talking, because we as women that's how we operate.
Right. And I just feel like it's hard to have those conversations. And I know as a parent, even like, it's hard to even think of the questions to ask about, like, when's a difficult, like, it's not an everyday kind of convo, right? Like,
Yeah.
And so I think just having the card there, even if the parent isn't initiating those questions, it's an opportunity for the girl to look at those questions, right? And say, oh, yeah, when was a time that I, was not feeling like the situation was right? And I felt like I should say something, and we do give prompts to them of like examples of like, maybe there's a time that it felt like uncomfortable when somebody was getting bullied, and how did you handle that? And, all of those different kinds of conversations. So I think our goal is, even if the parent isn't necessarily using it as a parental resource, it's prompting the child to think about it while they're crafting, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just kind of one of those times where you're in your zone, you're creating your craft, and you can be thinking about these kinds of things. So.
Yeah. I also can see it, in a group setting with, a teacher or, at a community center or something like that, for the girls to even speak amongst themselves, which I'm sure is very powerful.
You're right. We have partners. So one of the goals of this company is not only like saying we empower girls, we want more for girls, is to actually kind of stand behind that, right? And so we donate a portion of our sales to organizations working to help girls. And then another portion is donating the craft kits, like to your organization and to other ones. But exactly what you're saying is we work with an organization called Girls Positivity Club, and she's doing just that. And she is just on this mission to empower girls. And just like you're saying, in those settings where they're all creating a jewelry box or they're all creating, our rainbow kit or something like that, they have the opportunity to be having those discussions about how are you positive? How are you empowering yourself? And so exactly what you're saying, they use them in group settings as well. So it's cool.
Wow. I have a million questions for you too. Like, do you have any type of like business background or entrepreneurial backgrounds? Like, how did you get from like, I have a million questions that are going through my head, but to me, it seems that you have the entrepreneurial mindset, which is an open mindset, scanning the environment for opportunities. Bass Pro Shops does not, at the surface level, seem like it would be an opportunity for girls' crafts at all.
Right. Well, I should back up. They did not use girls' crafts at Bass Pro Shop.
Understood.
So it was anything themed. So it was fall hunting festival or but, or Christmas or Mother's Day and things like that. So we would theme our crafts around that. So
sure.
But I think what's amazing about Bass Pro Shop, and they were in Cabela's, is that they supported women-owned businesses, right?
Wow.
So I think that that's kind of the important takeaway from that relationship, is just those suppliers that you wouldn't necessarily think are, all about the woman, is that they were looking to support a woman-owned business, which was cool.
I love that. It warms my heart toward those companies a little bit more, because you do, at the surface, if you don't know about their, business practices, it's a lot of hunting and, fishing and everything, which is primary, camo, which is primarily male, but that's just so wonderful to hear. So, backing up, but before that, how did you, you're a mom, right? And we know that this is the most difficult job in the world that never ends. How did you kind of get to that place where you said, wait a minute, there's an opportunity here. I want to do something. I'm ready to go as a business person.
Yeah. So I do have a business background. My major was business, and right out of college, I worked as a consultant for, Anderson Consulting, which at the time it's now Accenture. But so I did that for probably 3 years. And then I stopped to raise our kids. And so I was a stay-at-home mom for 11 years, raising our kiddos. And then, like I said, I was kind of itching to do something, but I didn't know what that push was. And I told my husband all the time, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get back into business. Like, I am so irrelevant right now. Like, everything has changed. Software has changed, and he's like, Kirsten, the opportunity will come. The opportunity will come. Like, you're doing the most important job right now in raising these kiddos to be amazing humans. And while I loved that, towards the end, around 10, 11 years, I was like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. And then that holiday shop thing, the volunteering at that was kind of the first, wait a second, I can do something better here. And that's what started all of me getting back into working and business.
Gosh, isn't it so funny? It's like you think that you're not relevant, but meanwhile, you're more relevant and more innovative than if you had gone back to Accenture or any other company that you would have almost felt less than, because you maybe didn't understand whatever, the software or whatever the heck it was.
Right.
You used everything that you had, including and I'll say it again, your entrepreneurial mindset, your growth mindset. You used that to create something that is incredibly impactful. And just from everything that you've described about the evolution of your business, right? And the fact that you're willing to continually evolve, it says to me that you're an entrepreneur and you always have been, right? And also raising kids, you have to be super creative to keep them occupied. And also for yourself, right? You need to keep your own mind occupied while they're doing their own thing. So I'll just say it again, like, I admire you greatly. And I think that you can, I hope that I don't embarrass you, but it's like, you can also be an inspiration for other moms who feel like all I've done is raise my kids.
Yes, I
P.S.
have
It's
been
not
there.
over. Yeah.
Yes, I have been there many a time in my head of like, well, this is it. Like, and this
Yeah.
is it is a lot, right? Like we're talking, it's a lot, but
It's a lot.
it does feel like there is a sense of like, what am I going to do after this? I don't know how to get back into it. And, I would just say, I think had I not taken those years, so we have a senior right now. And so I'm looking back and you will never regret that time, right? Like
No.
now that it's gone and everybody says it goes so fast, but now that it is really like they're moving on,
Yeah.
I don't regret it at all. And I think that there is such a opportunity, and you are still relevant is what I would say. Are
Yes.
insanely creative and opportunistic and
Everything. We're
everything.
everything. Yeah, I totally agree. And another point that I think is really important too, it seems to me that your partner was also incredibly supportive of you and encouraged you, and he saw something in you, right? That he sees you every day. He knows that you had a gift, and the fact that he was able to say to you, just wait, like that opportunity is going to be there. That is incredible.
Yeah, I know. I am
Oh,
very fortunate. I have an amazing husband.
God, it
And he
sounds
is
like
the
it.
biggest cheerleader of this whole thing when I'm like, I think I'm just tired and I want to
Yeah.
be done. He's like,
Drink a mojito.
drink, let's go get some mint.
Oh my gosh, this is so interesting. And, to me too, I see such great possibility for your business to go in almost any direction that you want it to. Especially now, there is that trend toward education and bringing people back into, history and our education that have sort of been wiped out of the history books, right? It's not just women, it's, Native Americans, it's African Americans, it's all of the people that helped us to build this country that we sometimes just wash right over. So, like I see the possibilities,
Yes.
and it seems like there's a lot to do, but at the same time, as a business owner, you also want to kind of stay in the lane that you are, not just comfortable with, but that is going to be generating that revenue.
Yes. 100%. We've been really fortunate. I would say, we launched in 2021 and we're already on the shelves at Meijer stores, which is a Midwest store.
Yep.
And then we are also scheduled to be in Walmart in March. And so
Wow.
I think that the idea of these trailblazer crafts and the entrepreneurial crafts really resonates with people,
Yeah.
and so we're just very fortunate that other people see the value in what we're trying to do, because everything that you were saying about how important it is for girls, we've done so much research in trying to figure out how to sell these crafts and what to do. And it's shocking. 2/3 of girls don't think that they can be whatever they want to be.
I
They
know.
don't. And so it's like, how do we teach them that? And how do we expose them to these women? How do
Yeah.
we make a product that can expose them to feeling like they can be more and do more and that they're special and their voice matters. And so
Yeah.
everything that you're saying is just exactly correct in terms of, the importance of it right now.
Yeah. And I also have another question, just like one of these practical questions for people who are entrepreneurs and thinking, okay, I want to create a product, right? A lot of times women, again, sweeping statement, we create these service type of businesses because it's what we know. We come out of corporate, we start a marketing consulting or, accounting or insurance, whatever it is. But a product business is a little scary because forming relationships with big factories in China, how do you possibly do that from the US? Like, what process did you have to go through to identify the right factory? I'm sure there's certain criteria that you had. You don't want anybody being harmed in the process of creating these kids' crafts.
Oh,
So how
no.
did you go about doing
Yeah,
that?
no, we work with, we have very strict guidelines for our factory, and we ensure that there isn't any type of, unsafe working conditions and things like that. I've actually been over to China and met with our factory and seen it, and I'm very fortunate. I have two amazing, amazing suppliers that I honestly consider friends. And I
Wow.
think we've also had those experiences with early on with factories that didn't end up being the greatest, right?
Yep.
We had one batch that they didn't heat the adhesive right for our felt sticker crafts, and you couldn't pull the back off. Like, it was horrible. And I think, I would say for any entrepreneur that's looking to create products in China, I would say, one, get a lot of samples,
Mm-hmm.
Two, I would say do your research, right? Like,
Yeah.
even though they send you a sample, it's important to see how they're going to print that. For instance, I have a friend that just did a, production in China of a book, and the sample they sent her was different than the actual produced product because they printed it differently. They used
Yeah.
a different printing mechanism, and
Mhm.
they didn't tell her that up front, that they were going to print it differently. They just did a sample of it and then they printed it differently. And so I would say just do your research, like confirm that what you're seeing and is the exact process that they went through to create the sample. I would just say ask for references. Ask them if they have US references that you could contact. I would say that those are big things to ask.
How did you initially just even identify the different factories that could produce what you wanted to
Yeah,
produce?
so I would say, so back in 2013,
Mhm.
so I have my established relationships now. So I haven't I don't even know if the site is still, I went on Alibaba, I think it was.
Yep.
And I haven't been on that site in years, but that was my initial way of vetting suppliers and
Mm.
looking at suppliers. It's interesting. There's so many software systems out there too that help you identify where products come from suppliers in China, because every supplier in China or anything that's imported into the US, you have to have a record on file with the customs agents. And so
Yep.
if you want to know where, I don't know, Lululemon leggings come from, you can look up the import record of what factory produced those,
Yeah.
And so if there is a product that you really love and you want to know where what factory created that, that's another way to kind of figure out.
Backwards engineer almost who to reach out to.
Yeah.
That's such an incredible advice. There's sort of like the steps that you need to take, but then again, it's the confidence in yourself to say, wait a minute, what you're showing me
Mhm.
and what I'm seeing don't match up. Let's go through this
Mhm.
because you don't want to be then having to deal with something unexpected, or you also don't want to be putting out a product that doesn't meet your specifications.
Exactly. Exactly. And then at some point, you just have to have the faith, right? You have to take
Yeah.
the risk. And that's all about being the entrepreneur, right? Is the risk. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget that first deposit that I sent to China in my very first transaction was like, okay, they want 30% down. This is like all I have right now,
Yeah.
So it's just kind of that leap of faith of like, okay, I'm just going to trust that it all works out. And
Yeah.
so you do have to kind of have a little bit of faith and
And take a little risk, but
take a little risk.
it's measured risk. You
It is.
sort of understand, and then you say to yourself, okay, if this, doesn't go well, then you're going to have to think about, well, what's the next thing? And then the next
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly.
I just wanted to ask about the venture capitalist, right? So the person that initially gave you 5, then
Mhm.
20. Do you still have that relationship? How did that kind of transition?
Yep. Once I started working with Bass Pro Shop, I was able to fund myself.
Great.
And so I ended up paying back the venture capital company, and then we kind of
Great.
split ties. So yeah.
Great. Oh,
Yeah.
I love
One
that.
other
Yeah.
piece of advice that I was going to say to like
Yeah.
moms or to people that are starting out or looking to start that entrepreneurial journey is I think one of the most helpful things that I think is just part of my personality is I don't wait, like I just do. And
Mm,
so I would say, don't wait till it's perfect. Don't wait
mm,
till your logo is perfect. Don't wait till the website is perfect. Get it out there. Just get it out there
mm.
and then tweak as you go because
Yeah.
that can just kind of be debilitating sometimes with, wait, I don't have the social media post quite right. I don't have the website quite right. I want the cart to do this when I click here or all of that. Just get it out there to start and then
Mm.
tweak, and things change. I mean, I've had probably well, we had a name change. We originally were Elf Factory back in the day, but like when the school holiday shop stuff was going on. But I would say like your name will change, your logos change. Like we've had probably 4 different websites, and I think that's kind of the journey of your business is it will continually be changing.
Yeah.
And so don't wait to have everything perfect. Just
Mm.
get out there, just do it.
I love that advice so much. And I do think that entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, we do suffer sometimes from perfectionism. It's sort of
Mhm.
how we were conditioned again, which is not great. So yeah, I love this idea of, put something out there, get feedback, continue to iterate. It doesn't feel natural
No.
necessarily, but once you do it, you realize like this is also life, right? Like even thinking about your children, what works with them one day does not work the next
Does
or
not
the next
ever.
hour.
What works with one child does not work with the other child.
No. And also they're also constantly growing and evolving and
Yeah,
changing and all of that. So if you can kind of have that fundamental understanding that, business is also part of you. It is part of life. It's an evolution. And if you can approach it like that, I really do believe that you can set yourself up for success, not thinking my product has to be perfect and it always has to stay this way. I mean,
right.
the world has fundamentally changed. And
Yeah.
one other question that I had for you, obviously during COVID, you had to sort of change and evolve in your business. But are you currently or just even in the past like year, have you experienced the supply chain issues that everybody else experienced?
Yes. I would
Mm.
say the biggest supply chain issue that I think is facing small businesses, and I've even written to Congress about this, is that the cost for shipping a container right now is astronomical. So,
Oh,
for instance, when I used to ship containers prior to COVID, during peak season, so that's like the most expensive time it would be to ship a 40-foot container, it would cost me about $6,500.
okay.
That same 40-foot container right now is costing $18,800.
Wow. It's 3 times as much. Wow.
So, people are still looking for awesome deals on products and things like that. And it's just so hard the margin is so small because our shipping costs are almost more than our products cost.
Yeah.
It just it's such a tricky time right now with the shipping charges.
Yeah. It's like there's so many decisions here, which is, for you, this is your, experience every day. You're constantly having to make all of these decisions and choices and everything. And these relationships that you have with the factories in China. Have you ever thought about, well, what would it be to manufacture some of this stuff here and then trying to figure out, well, what's the cost for doing that here? And then does that all make sense?
Mhm. We've looked at a ton of different options. So we've looked at manufacturing in the US. We've looked at manufacturing in Mexico.
Mexico? Hmm.
I think we looked at India for just a quick second. But the deal is that even if we manufacture in the USA, a lot of craft materials are still imported from China.
Ah,
So, like if you're thinking pom-poms or you're thinking
gosh.
like for instance, our Speak Like Maya Craft has a hand woven seagrass mat.
Mm,
And to have that produced in the US is just so astronomical that
yeah.
it just wouldn't be it's cost prohibitive, I guess I should say,
Yeah.
because we've looked at those options.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I really like this conversation because these
Mhm.
are the things that you have to consider. And, entrepreneurship, while exciting, while inspirational, while you're doing all of this good stuff, there are absolute challenges
Mhm.
to, continuing to operate in the
Yeah.
way that you do. So I hope that supply chain opens up, that some of these costs come down and everything,
Mhm.
because don't stop what you're doing.
Right.
It's absolutely incredible. And with all of the different lines, is there a certain age range? I know it's fairly young, but does it kind of touch the college age women?
It doesn't. I would say our target age is tween girls. So like that
Tweens.
8 to 12-year
Mm,
old girl is kind of our audience.
yeah.
Our crafts are a little bit more challenging than say the normal, paint a pot kind of craft or something like that. Like they take a little bit more time and patience. And so we kind of really try to target that a little bit older girl that's probably 4th grade to 6th or 7th grade.
That's so amazing. There's a couple of other women that I know that are in the same space as you, that when
Mhm.
we close out, I definitely want to introduce you to them.
Great.
But through just my relationship with them and understanding of the research, it shows that, girls start to lose confidence in themselves right at that age, from 8 to 12. It's like they fall off a cliff,
Mhm.
right? And even when it comes to sports and everything like that, they just start to, uh, you know, go lean against the wall and not participate. So the fact that you are in there trying to help bring them back from that is incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so good. So this has been such a beautiful, wonderful conversation. I am so
Thank
inspired by
you.
you, what you're doing, your entrepreneurialism,
Oh,
your tenacity, and just this focus on girls. It is something that is very near and dear to my heart. I actually have two boys. No, no little girls, two boys. But I always, instill in them that women are so powerful. And I think that when we do come together, men, women, everybody, we're much stronger for it. So, Kirsten, thank you so much. I just appreciate you so much. And I
oh,
appreciate the beautiful donation that you gave to She Leads. We also were able to gift some of the people that helped out at the conference, some of the AV people. They had daughters, so we provided them some kits too. So I think that, here in New York, you are definitely making your way around.
oh,
Um,
that makes my heart happy.
yeah.
I love that. And, if you know of organizations or if your listeners have organizations that are doing things to empower girls, we'd love to hear from them and get some crafts in their hands to spread the word.
Beautiful. So, how can people find out more about Kids Crafts, more about you? What can they do? Where can they find you?
Yep. So our website is kidscrafts.org. So org, and it's kids with an S, crafts with an S.org. That would probably be the best way to reach out to us and get in contact with us. Our Instagram is Kids Crafts LLC, but those would probably be the two best ways to kind of reach out and talk to us. They make great
Amazing.
holiday gifts.
Yes, they make great holiday gifts. Thank you so much. And we'll put all of this in the show notes so people can easily find you and follow you and do all the social media things.
Oh, thank you so much. I really, really, appreciate you taking the time to interview me and kind of hear the story.
Well, thank you so much and have a happy holiday coming up. It's Thanksgiving
You
this week.
too.
So happy Thanksgiving. And we will definitely be in touch soon.
Okay, thanks again. Take care.
Okay, you too.